one of my shortcomings is I tend to be slow to adapt to technology, but fortunately, because I did a lot of writing and because I did a lot of writing at prominent outlets, early on, a lot of the internet sites reached out to me to write for them. So I had the luxury and the benefit of that happening so that it was natural progression in that regard. One thing I didn't get involved with that a lot of people did was I didn't join the staff of a internet site very early on, like a lot of the places did. And I also never got into blogging because for me, my thing has always been about the artists because I love the artists and I know other than very rare instances, it's really the platform and what I try to do is all about the music and the artists that make it. It's not about me. And that's why I never did the blogging and I never wrote a 4,000 word think piece about why, Drake's album is changing rap or whatever people would do. I just didn't have any interest in that because I always wanted to look at things journalistically. And while I have very strong opinions and I'm going to share those when appropriate, but I just wasn't interested in that. And then at the same time, as all this stuff was happening, I was getting more into trying to write for television and write books and write movies. And that didn't really line up per se with writing for websites. So it was weird. But at the same time, a lot of websites were also hiring me to write for them, which was good because I got a little bit in that world. And then in 2013, when I got a job offer and worked for Hip Hop DX, that was cool. But I also noticed that before I worked at Hip Hop DX, a lot of the sites, fell by the wayside, just like magazines, but there were more websites than magazines because the overhead to start an internet site was much significantly lower and the monthly expenditure was much lower. So the thing is, I think a lot of the people, including the big dogs in the game that tried to start websites or have these vanity sites, they didn't understand not only how it worked, but how expensive it was or how to generate revenue by it. And then in the early 2000s, when things really went digital and magazines started to fade because of the lack of advertising, the websites weren't savvy enough or didn't do the right adjustments to where they could capitalize on that business fully because they didn't understand how to harness the traffic. And the technology was changing exponentially, and the conversions of, we posted it in this type of format, and now it's this type of format, and that format doesn't convert. So these 300 articles we wrote, we can't post them on the new site unless we totally redo them or retype them or whatever it was. WordPress, that was obviously a huge evolutionary step. But before that, everybody kind of had to do their own code, if I understand correctly. So it was a big mess. And that's why a lot of these things failed. And then on top of that, a lot of the older people that are involved didn't understand it and didn't even want to be bothered by it. So if they had an ad budget that they were in charge of that was $250,000 and they spent zero of it on a website, but they put it all in a magazine, then the magazines are going to keep going and the website's not even going to get a chance. So you have a very wide range of factors going into all this stuff not working. And if you look at it today too, I'm generalizing, but the CNNs and the LA Times and the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune and the mainstays are the ones that have survived online. And a lot of the independent, quote unquote, voices that were trying to emerge had a hard time because of the uncertainty of how to monetize what they were doing. And then people were so used to reading for free online. It's just a myriad of issues. So as technology and all this stuff has adapted, starting in, I guess, really the early to mid 2000s, probably, it's a totally different thing. Whereas with a newspaper in particular, or a magazine, it was very easy to determine this is an ad. And we know that the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Chicago Tribune, the LA Times have pages, and certain part of those pages are allocated for ads if you can sell them. That's a very different thing than a website with all the pop-ups and then the crashes and then the volume, traffic spike if something happens. There's a mess.